All right. So today's agenda, this hearing is going to go until 10:30, but if we end up getting a lot of people who want to comment, we can go a little bit past that. I will be doing the first half of the presentation on what standards in the Triennial Review are. Ian will go over the water quality standards topics, and then Mark will be fielding the Q&A and comments portion. If you have a question, please wait until after the presentation is finished and add your name in the chat, and then we'll call on you and have you ask your question verbally so it can be captured by the recording. We do ask that public comments be no more than 3 minutes so we can let as many people talk as possible. So the Triennial Review is a required component of the Clean Water Act. Every 3 years, states and authorized tribes are required to review their water quality standards and update them as necessary. This requires input from both internal and external stakeholders through public hearings, which is what we're doing today. So today we're going to go over standards and the Triennial Review and what they are, what's involved in the process, as well as some topics that we have been working on. This presentation hearing is going to narrowly focus on Iowa's surface water, not groundwater quality standards. There are, of course, many aspects of water quality that are really important to discuss, but just today we're focusing on standards for surface water. So that includes lakes, streams, rivers, and wetlands. So water quality standards can best be shown by the use of this stool. So basically, National Clean Water Act goals are for all waters to be fishable and swimmable. These are also called 101A2 uses because they're pulled from Section 101A2 of the Clean Water Act. So 101A2 fishable, swimmable are the broad national policy goals, and then state water quality standards are the water body specific applications of those goals. So water quality standards have three core components. You have designated uses, water quality criteria, and anti-degradation. Designated uses are, as I just mentioned, the water quality goals for the surface water, i.e. fishable, swimmable. Water quality criteria are the levels of water quality that will support the designated uses, and these can be either numeric values or narrative statements. And then lastly, you have anti-degradation, which is a framework for maintaining and protecting water quality that has already been achieved. Just like a stool, you need all three of these components to protect water quality. If you take one away or if you take one leg of the stool away, the stool falls over and water quality suffers. Every state and authorized tribe is required to have these three components, but there is some flexibility in the details of how exactly they adopt the standards. The overarching goal, of course, is to protect the physical, chemical, and biological integrity of the water. So Iowa has 11 designated uses. We have 3 warm water ones listed on the screen. BWW1 is, are there game fish present? BWW2 is non-game fish are present. And then BWW3 is perennial pools with intermittent streams between the pools. We have 2 cold water, BCW1 and BCW2, and the only difference between those is whether there is trout present or not. We also have a lakes and wetlands one. We have 3 recreational uses, A1, 2, and 3. A1 is primary contact, so can adults swim in the water? A2 is secondary contact, so it's too shallow for adults to swim in it and ingest the water. A3 is do children recreate in it often enough? So this will be often given when it's near houses and city limits or within a park. We also have Class C, our drinking water use, and human health use, which is given to waters where fish are harvested for human consumption. Next up, we have water quality criteria. So there are 3 types: aquatic life, recreational, and human health. So EPA bases aquatic life criteria on how much of a chemical can be present in the surface water before it's likely to harm plant and animal life. The EPA designs aquatic life criteria to protect both freshwater and saltwater organisms from short-term and long-term exposure. EPA develops recreational criteria to determine when the water is safe for recreational activities such as swimming. And then EPA develops human health criteria based on research to determine how much of a specific chemical can be present in the surface water before it's likely to harm human health. So I mentioned before, you can have either numeric water quality criteria or narrative. A numeric example would be no heat shall be added to streams designated as cold water fisheries that would cause an increase of more than 2 degrees Celsius. So there are specific numbers listed in the criteria. A narrative example would be waters shall be free from materials producing objectionable color, odor, or other aesthetically objectionable conditions. There's no numbers in it, but we know what the goal is. So third part of standards is anti-degradation, which I mentioned before. It's a way of keeping clean waters clean. The official definition is a regulatory policy and implementation procedure to protect existing uses of surface waters and to specify how DNR will determine on a case-by-case basis whether and to what extent existing water quality may be lowered in a surface water. So Iowa has 4 tiers: tier 1, tier 2 and a half, which has outstanding Iowa waters, and tier 3. And outstanding Iowa waters, as some of you may know, include like the trout streams in northeast Iowa and the Iowa Great Lakes in northwest Iowa. And if you'd like to view the anti-degradation implementation procedure, it is available on the website shown. So I'm going to go over what's involved in the standards adoption process. So this chart shows the general outline of it. In order for a standard to be effective for Clean Water Act purposes, it has to go through state rulemaking, be certified by the state attorney general's office, and then get approval from EPA. So this chart says rulemaking takes at least 108 days in red text there at the bottom, but rulemaking often takes closer to a full year because there is a lot of stakeholder outreach and engagement, and the hearings have to be scheduled 45 days in advance, and they are not included in this outline. So that's why it usually takes a full year. The red box shows EPA's role in the water quality standards process. So as I mentioned before, after the state AG certifies it, we submit it to EPA. And once they have it, they have 60 days to approve. If they approve it, the standard is effective under the Clean Water Act. If they disapprove, they have 90 days. And if they disapprove, EPA is required to promulgate standards or propose their own, or they may consider prior approved standards as effective. So a bit about the Triennial review process. So 40 CFR 13120 states, the state shall from time to time, but at least once every 3 years, hold public hearings for the purpose of reviewing applicable water quality standards. Basically, every 3 years, we review their standards and see if we need to adopt new ones. It provides an opportunity for the public to participate in the state's water quality standards adoption process, which is what we're doing today. States will often have to do rulemakings during the Triennial review, but not always. If EPA puts out new criteria, for example, the Triennial review is a good way to evaluate whether rulemaking is appropriate to adopt those standards or not. So a new thing with the Triennial review is tribal reserved rights. So the new tribal reserved rights rule, which was effective June 3rd, 2024, states that if a tribe asserts a reserved right on a state water, the state must take that use into account when developing standards and protect the tribe to the same level as the general population. Iowa joined a lawsuit with 7 other states. That lawsuit is currently stayed. However, just yesterday, actually, EPA notified the court that it will no longer defend the rule against plaintiffs' argument that the agency lacks statutory authority to require states to consider and protect off-reservation reserved rights asserted by federally recognized tribes. So here's kind of the timeline we're working off of. Last year, we spent a lot of time prepping different standards topics and doing a lot of work on that. This fall, we're holding the public hearing, which is today and next Tuesday, and we'll be doing a responsiveness summary for any comments we receive. This winter, whichever topics we choose, we'll work on those revisions, and then next year we'll propose those revisions and hold stakeholder meetings on the proposed revisions. So now I'd like to go over some water quality standards topic areas that we've been working on for the last few years. First up is anti-degradation. So Iowa's anti-degradation implementation procedure, or AIP, was adopted in 2010. EPA updated their anti-deg language requirements in 2015. So we kind of reworked our stuff based on that language. Updates to Iowa's AIP would include replacing the rule-cited AIP with actual rule language in Chapter 60 and 61. We would add the list of outstanding Iowa waters to the surface water classification document. We'd clean up some redundancies, inconsistencies. We'd adjust what triggers anti-deg. A few definitions would be updated, and then also return to EPA's prior approved 2010 economic efficiency language. So when we first proposed this draft language in 2021, 2022, we weren't sure exactly where EPA was going to land on it. And then EO10 happened in January 2022, which paused all rulemaking until everyone did a review of their rules. We did get good feedback from stakeholders then and EPA, and we still wanted to make some changes, so we're bringing this up again to gauge interest now. All right, another topic is cleanup of Chapter 61. So Chapter 61 is the water quality standards chapter. What we'd like to do is take the tables in Chapter 61 and place them in a rule reference document and kind of clean them up because they're really hard to use and follow right now. And then also do a general cleanup and clarification of the text in Chapter 61. Just cleanup, no substantive changes would be suggested. We would do things like adding CAS numbers to make the tables easier to use, so you know which chemical exactly you're talking about. For example, sometimes with Class C, we refer to it as Class C. Sometimes a drinking water source, we use the term before we define it. We need to clean that up. And we did complete a lot of this work in the last few years, and we would like to take it through rulemaking. Another cleanup would be of our surface water classification document, or SWC. So this document lists all the designated stream segments in Iowa. It is a rule reference document, and it does require rulemaking to change. It would be a lot of a clerical overhaul. So, fun fact, before I joined this job, I did not know what section township range was or how it was used to find location. And that is what is currently used with the surface water classification document. So we figure since everyone has the ability to look up latitude, longitude on their phones now, we should switch it from STR to decimal degrees to make it easier to use. There are some other mistakes that need fixed, including incorrect location, misspelled county names, SWC and ADBnet not matching up, etc. And then we'd also like to do more of a substantive analysis of the entire document. So how we designate streams right now is we go off specific segments, and we'd like to look and see, is this really the best way to be doing that? Is there a better way that we could be doing it by watershed or by HUC 12? So we'd like to look into that more. And then use attainability analysis. So a use attainability analysis is a structured scientific assessment of the factors affecting the attainment of uses specified in Section 101A2 of the Clean Water Act. Basically, it's a stream assessment. We collect field data, analyze it to determine what the designation should be, and then take the designations through rulemaking to adopt the uses into the SWC. And then once they're final, they can use to be set limits and NPDES permits. So 425B 176A does require that before an NPDES permit can be renewed, a use sustainability analysis has to be completed. And there are currently about 250 delayed permits because of UAAs, some of which have been expired a really long time. We currently have about 100 UAA write-ups in progress. And then again, we do need to do rulemaking to adopt proposed designations into the SWC before the permits can be reissued. All right, and I'm going to hand it off to Ian now to cover human health and some other topics.
All right, thanks, Marie. So first off, I'll be talking about human health criteria. So Iowa currently has human health criteria for many toxic substances, such as metals, pesticides, and industrial chemicals in its water quality standards. Most of Iowa's current human health criteria are based on EPA's 2002 recommendations. EPA's 2015 human health criteria is meant to use the latest scientific data to protect humans from both carcinogens and non-carcinogens due to consuming fish and drinking water. So we have started working on comparing our current human health criteria to potential new human health criteria based on EPA's 2015 recommendations. The exact values are subject to change since inputs that could affect the new criteria values include the drinking water intake rate, fish consumption rate, population body mass, and chosen cancer risk level. As shown on the table, there are some parameters that are not currently in Iowa's human health criteria, but could be added in new criteria. For the ones that we do currently have, although there are some that would become less stringent, the majority of them would become more stringent with the new criteria. Next, I'll discuss PFAS. So PFAS are a large group of synthetic chemicals that have been widely used in industrial and consumer products since the 1940s. They are known for their resistance to heat, water, oil, and stains. Exposure to certain PFAS have been linked to a variety of adverse health effects in scientific studies. The EPA has taken a number of actions related to PFAS, as shown here on this slide. In 2024, EPA released recommended aquatic life criteria for PFOA and PFOS, as well as aquatic life benchmarks for 8 other PFAS. In 2024, EPA also released draft human health criteria for PFOA, PFOS, and PFBS. And in 2025, EPA announced that they will keep the National Primary Drinking Water Regulations, or MCLs, for PFOA and PFOS. So the Iowa DNR has a PFAS steering committee, which has been meeting regularly since 2020. This committee has been reviewing EPA's PFAS actions and will continue to analyze appropriate next steps. Next slide, please. Finally, I'd like to say a little bit about lake nutrients, that is nitrogen and phosphorus, and the role TMDLs play. So EPA published recommended numeric nutrient criteria for lakes in 2021. Iowa currently addresses nutrient impairments in lakes through total maximum daily loads, or TMDLs, for the effects of excess nutrients. So a TMDL is a calculation of the maximum amount of a pollutant allowed to enter a water body so that the water will still meet water quality standards. And the following 3 slides here show the status of Iowa's TMDLs for addressing nutrient-related impairments in lakes. Next slide, please. So this map shows a number of lake nutrient TMDLs that have been completed in each HUC 8 watershed in Iowa. And HUCs are an identification system commonly used for watersheds. Statewide, there are 83 completed TMDLs for lakes, shallow lakes, wetlands, and reservoirs for the effects of excess nutrients. Those effects could be a violation of the numeric criteria for dissolved oxygen or pH, or a violation of the narrative criteria for algae, turbidity, or noxious aquatics. It's important to note that some lakes could be impaired for multiple effects of excess nutrients. So for instance, a lake could be impaired for both DO and algae, or there could be one lake that has multiple impairments for both something that's both related to excess nutrients. So among these 83 TMDLs, a total of 151 impairments have been addressed. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are 66 lakes, shallow lakes, wetlands, and reservoirs in Iowa, the red dots on this image, that still need nutrient-related TMDLs. This number includes numerous lakes with an older nutrient TMDL, which need either amendments or full redos. Among these 66 lakes, there are 97 impairments left to address. Next slide. So to look at it on a percentage basis, statewide, approximately 60% of the nutrient-related TMDLs for lakes, shallow lakes, wetlands, and reservoirs that are needed have been done. And the Iowa DNR is actively working on TMDLs with the goal of getting that number up to 100%. Next slide.